Hello and welcome to the Wedding Dish Podcast. Grab your fork and knife and take a seat at our table as we dish on all things weddings. You'll hear stories and tips from real couples and wedding pros about love, life, and entrepreneurship. I, of course, am Sarah Alapin, your hostess with the mostest on the Wedding Dish podcast and the CEO of Photos from the Hardy and District Bliss. And we have our little French bulldog Bud laying in the bed that's over here because I'm not in my normal office today. Before we get started, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, you've got to check it out. Priska Benson came on from Our Green Life, and she was talking about money and saving and how to really think forward into the marriage with your finances. So today we are talking with a wedding planner who has redefined luxury event planning through meticulous design and a flair for the extraordinary, the CEO of Cassie LaMere Events. Cassie, thank you so much for joining me on the Wedding Dish today.
I'm honored to be here and I'm so excited for our conversation. Thank you.
Me too. I can't wait to talk about this. And we're actually going to start on a bit of a personal note today. So, what was it like as a wedding planner? What was your experience planning your own wedding?
Yeah, we're going to get right to it, right? Oh my goodness. I lovingly call it my magnum opus because this was obviously one of the most important events I will ever plan as far as how personal and invested, and it's something that I've dreamt up my whole life and I knew everything that I wanted. I had, spent years kind of curating ideas and the vision for our wedding. So it was a really interesting experience to be on the other side, obviously, and get a more current perspective of what our couples experience. And there was a lot of pressure from outside influences of people saying, "Oh my gosh, you're a wedding planner! I can't wait to see your wedding. I can't imagine what you're going to do." And so I had to really kind of silence that noise because it's easy to get caught up in what other people's expectations are of your celebration. And it's the same advice that I give to all of our couples about really being clear on what's important to you and meaningful to you and using that as the guiding compass. And I had to do that many times to kind of go back to our story and what's important to us and being true to that. And as long as we stayed within that space and that realm, everything really connected to that end goal. And so it was, I mean, I again, it was, one of the most important events I'll ever plan. Of course, every event that we do is important and meaningful, but it was so special for me to be able to share this event that I had dreamed of, and for my husband and I to create this moment, and then, also to bring in a planner and to be the bride. So I also worked with, an amazing planner in the city where, we were getting married, and made sure that I had the opportunity to take my planner hat off at some point and be present and enjoy. So I was fortunate that Julian Lever was willing to collaborate with us, and we did the design and all of the, kind of contracting and development of the event. And then they came in to handle execution and coordination, which was really a gift to me and to my husband and I, so that, I really could be, focused on what's important that weekend and not be involved in, which was not easy either, right? Because I'm used to being involved in load in timelines and production schedules. And I was, blissfully ignorant to some of those details, but I also know more than most. So I think at times the planning process was a little difficult just because of, I definitely know a lot of, what the potential issues are and things behind the scenes. So I was in it, and, Julian was kind enough to kind of make me take a step back every now and then and, like, let's put the bride hat on and not jump into my 10 steps ahead, planner mode. So it was a beautiful celebration on New Year's Eve, very intimate, and it was meant to be like a dinner party in our home, and it was exactly that.
Oh, wow. I love that. Okay, so you said three very important things here.
Mhm.
Silencing the external voices. I think
Hmm.
that that is something that's so hard to do as a couple getting married. And I think for me, that was really hard specifically. And I see a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
So that is a really great piece of advice.
Hmm.
Getting support so that you don't have to do the things that take you out of that moment.
Hmm.
So in your case, hiring a planner, which I love when there's a planner because that makes my day so much easier.
Right.
I think for the couple it makes their day so much easier too.
Yeah.
So if you can, please hire a planner. But also then like reminding yourself, this is my role in this day. I don't have to do all of these other things
Hmm.
for other people. I get to like enjoy my wedding for us as a couple. And so I think those were like super important points that I just really wanted to
Thank
call out
you.
that you said.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate because I do have the perspective as a planner of, knowing how quickly the day goes by and, what ends up being the things that you remember versus something is going to go wrong. There is going to be a hiccup. So for me, it was about, tailoring the event and the design of the event so that we could have that experience where we were able to sit down and enjoy our four-course dinner with our 42 guests and where we were able to really like relish in the celebration and the details that were important to us. So, of course, I know the value of a planner, right? And I'm always first and foremost going to advocate, that's the first phone call we make. And then also with the idea of being clear on what's important to you, there were some things that maybe are traditional to a wedding celebration that we chose not to do, and I think that's another important component of what we work with our clients on is there are certain ideas or formulas of what a celebration looks like or traditions that are typically included in a wedding, and having a very candid and honest conversation about, do those serve us? Are those meaningful and important to us? And if they're not, it's okay to move away from those or consider an alternative. And so we really empowered ourselves and allowed ourselves to not feel that we had to subscribe to some of those ideas. And I think partially that's also what made our wedding resonate so much with clients. And we ended up having a few publications feature us because we did what was meaningful and very us. And that's always the goal is, we want to walk in and say like, this is so them. And when we had a conversation, there were just certain things that weren't, important to us or, seemed something that was more of an obligation. And so, I'm grateful that we had, um, you know, had that conversation and dialogue between us as a couple, but also that, our family members and our friends supported us, going forward with those decisions that made sense for us.
I love that. It sounds like an incredible wedding. Like it
Thank
really
you.
sounds like it was incredible and it feels like it was very personal. So, what are some of the non traditional details that you incorporated into your own wedding?
Well, we didn't, this is a hot take right now. A lot of we're having a lot of conversations about this. We did not do a farewell brunch on Sunday. We did not do a farewell event. Um we felt I love breakfast in bed. I am that girl and I wanted to be able to enjoy our first morning as husband and wife together. And so we talked about it and because originally it was on kind of the plan, the itinerary. Not that that was communicated to guests, but internally that was part of the weekend of events. And again, something that's become very common. So, you just naturally think, okay, and then we're going to have the brunch the next day. And the more that I really kind of soul searched and, got honest with myself about if that was something I wanted to do, I just felt like it was another event and, we had to get up and get ready and all of our guests, it was New Year's Day and it just wasn't really the intention that I had. I wanted people to be able to enjoy their morning and hit the snooze button and so I just felt like maybe there was something else we could do. So this was an example of how we reinvented the idea of a farewell brunch. We delivered custom Sadelle's bagel boxes and coffees and mimosas to everyone's room with a little note from us as a couple and invited everyone to enjoy breakfast in bed and just like I said, kind of have a leisurely morning and just we had such a great revelry the night before. It's a New Year's wedding, obviously it was a late night. And I just think everybody really appreciated the gift of enjoying their morning how they would like to. And then obviously a lot of people were traveling, so they had to get going. And so that was an example of something that we just you know kind of flipped on its head a little bit. And I really loved that experience, and it was really special for Andrew and I that next day. So we're seeing a lot of couples doing this. I don't know if you are, but we're seeing a lot of couples forego the farewell brunch or farewell event.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Since as a photographer, I don't
Hmm.
really see the next day.
Hmm.
And I don't really often think to ask about it. So unless I see it on their social media,
Hmm.
I haven't really thought about it. But I feel like it is a place that you could really cut cost too. Um,
Yeah.
and it is like another thing you have to plan for. So
Right.
it feels we didn't do it, but I mean our
Hmm.
wedding was kind of its own can of worms because we we only had 17 people at our wedding.
Love that.
So we ended up down in the buffet room at the hotel and everyone else was down there. So they all just kind of like
Yeah.
sat with us,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like planned or anything like that. And breakfast was included with their stay.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. It does. I like the idea as a person who would be attending a wedding
Hmm.
of receiving a bagel and coffee and mimosas more than going to brunch. Although I would still love to see you before I like hit the road. But if I don't, I'll live.
Yeah, and especially with destination events and multi-day events, that's where we're really seeing this being built into the experience. And I think the intention of it, or the origin, where the origin started was, guests are traveling in for your event, and you really want to make sure that they feel well cared for, and that you're providing these experiences, which I fully embrace and support. I agree with that 100%. The guest experience and making sure they feel well cared for and appreciated is the utmost priority. But I also think that, it's okay to revisit, some of these expectations that have been set as events have become bigger and more elaborate and, several days, which is what, listen, this is what we do. That's most of our events are destination. They are multi-day. But there are other ways to approach caring for your guests and to make sure that they feel, appreciated, and let them know how much, how grateful you are for them. So I think it just goes back to not subscribing to a particular formula of what your wedding or your wedding weekend should look like. And that was, one example of something that we personally did that we loved, and it also spoke to, me as a, individual. And, my husband is Jewish. So, there was a kind of a tongue in cheek with the bagels. Everybody knows that we love, a good bagel. And so, yeah, it was us. And, that I can't imagine anything better than that. But we also we did a private first dance instead of a private last dance. That was something that we did, which was really special, and one of my favorite moments from our wedding day. Before everyone came into the reception, we had a moment to be together and share a dance, which also helped with like the nerves when it came to the actual first dance. So, and I wanted to be on the dance floor to the last song. So we didn't do a grand exit. And part of the why I didn't want to have the private dance on the tail end, I wanted to just be there with everyone. So we kind of, restructured that. And, yeah, there were several things that we just did for us. And I think, again, I'm fortunate that we had some tough conversations with family about making it such an intimate event, and some of those details that couples navigate. But ultimately we were able to work through that. And everyone was really supportive of knowing that it's about us. And so that, I think, obviously we deal with that a lot with our couples, is like navigating those conversations and the outside stress and pressures that come with those expectations or obligations.
Yeah, I think I love that the way that you just framed that because for me that was very stressful and you made it
Hmm.
feel like it doesn't have to be. So, yeah, I think I love that. Your wedding sounds amazing. I really want to see your wedding picture.
Thank you. I always wanted to get married on New Year's Eve, so it was a dream.
I think that's so fun when people do that. And it wasn't a huge wedding either. So you didn't have to like compete with getting, it doesn't sound like you had to compete with getting like a venue. And that was like, you know, something, let's say historic, where there are like seven in the city. And then you have, it's, I love that. I think it's really cool. New Year's Eve is such a fun night to get married.
It was, yeah, it was a really festive spirit, and everyone appreciated something to have something to look forward to do on New Year's, and it was all candlelit. Another thing I went more candles than flowers. Again, something a little, different. And yeah, it was magical. So thank you.
Also, something just speaking right to my heart. So, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned owning a wedding planning business?
Oh my gosh. Do we
I
we don't have
know
enough time for all that.
there are so many.
I'm still learning lessons every day. Um, I started my company 6 years ago. Prior to that, I was in house for some really celebrated luxury brands doing experiential events. So I've been planning events for over 15 years. I also say that I was born ready to entertain. I came out of the womb wanting to plan parties and celebrations. So this is, this goes way back. But in my current era of owning my own business, one thing and this is again, like I haven't got this all figured out. So I think it's important to say that first and foremost. But I think the journey for me has been defining what success looks like for me. And again, we've talked a lot about outside influence and pressure. We see that as well as vendors.
Hmm.
There is no shortage of beautiful events happening and these incredible clients. And, obviously, maybe an event that you would aspire to have as part of your portfolio or someone that you would love to work with. And so it's common, comparison is the thief of joy, right? Like you're constantly comparing yourself to other people within the industry and what they're doing and their accomplishments. And I had to really look at what success looked like for me. And it is obviously very complex in many different layers, and it's going to be different for me than any other vendor or business owner within our industry or outside of it. And so I do think our industry prioritizes producing at this very high level. I think it's event after event, and it's this kind of pace that isn't sustainable. And for the level, you spoke earlier about like how meticulous we are with our design and the level of detail that we put into the intentionality and the purpose around the event. I had to decide that that is just not something that I am looking to do at this massive scale where I'm, producing events every single weekend and I'm, draining myself physically and mentally. So for me, it's about quality over quantity, but also, being a more boutique style service where we are from a luxury point of view. That is my background. It is a niche luxury, ultra luxury, um and figuring out that like what that mix looks, how that feels for me and what looks right for me. But I want to be proud of the events that we produce, and good enough is not okay for me. And so again, it just kind of goes back to like what is possible within, the scale of what our company is doing and the clients that we're working with. And every single event, I want to know that we've had the ultimate event, for that experience. So it's just a motivation that causes me to like reassess the amount of projects we're doing and that we align ourselves with, and then also how I'm spending my time outside of the business too, and and also the other aspects of the business that I want to foster. So um I don't know if you deal with this, but I mean this has been kind of something that I have to constantly check in on. And of course, it's also evolving as well and ever changing, right? Like what's important to me and to the business. Um, and I'm fortunate that I get to make those decisions now because it is my business. Whereas when I was, in house, some of those environmental influences, defined what that path looked like. And so I really love having that, ability to make those decisions for myself and kind of design the life that I want to live. But it is something that I think you can easily kind of lose sight of because you're just caught up in the next event, the next client, you know, um, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, it's just like you have to kind of reassess at some point.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in that. When I was younger, I had a year when I did 36 weddings in that
Hmm.
year. And it took a toll on me physically. It took a toll
Yeah.
on my relationships, but it
Hmm.
also took a toll on my clients because
Hmm.
I wasn't as available to them. And
Right.
sometimes it would take like 7 days to hear back from me because I would have a
Hmm.
wedding on a Friday and a wedding on a Sunday.
Hmm.
And that's a long time. And as I've matured as a business owner,
Hmm.
is the way I'll put that. Then I have decided that my priority is being more actively engaged with my
Right.
couples. So I'm there for them from like the start
Hmm.
throughout for any questions that may pop up. And a lot of
Hmm.
them will ask me about like what they're wearing and if
Hmm.
they have like a concern with maybe like they think they might get some redness on their chest. And is that
Uh-huh.
going to be, and they feel like they can reach out to me, even if it's something that seems like it's small, it's a big deal to them. And
Hmm.
it sounds like you very much take care of your clients in the same way.
Yeah, I think the type of service that we provide to our clients and the expectation from our clients is more of like a concierge level white glove service. And so one of the value adds for our clients is when we come on board for a project, our entire team is and our resources are dedicated to your event. So in the few weeks leading up to the event, like we're all hands on deck with your celebration. So those last minute things that are inevitably going to come up or those needs that weren't anticipated, like we're available to address and be responsive to that. And I do think that that's kind of been a shift for us and a game changer in that we're not at multiple events in one weekend. We're fully dedicated to that client and usually multi days, of events. So it really does take our entire, dedication and focus. And I agree with you, like that relationship is really something that we want to cultivate and take care of. And they are relying on us for everything. So, when we're taking on all of that, it does kind of become all consuming. And so with that, there's a bandwidth conversation there that, I think is important to have to your point, so you don't run yourself into the ground or, physically and mentally, it does take a toll. And again, I want to be proud of every single project we do. Not that that's not possible at, higher quantities of, production, but for me, that's just the space I'm in while also prioritizing my new marriage and my new puppy and and just things that are important for the business too. Like I also want to be working on the business and not
Mm-hmm.
always in the business. And with my team, being able to have, like I said, there are other aspects that I'm pursuing and developing that I need to be able to dedicate time to. Um, so having figuring out what that mix looks like. Yeah. And for you, I mean, like trying to do events and then turn around editing and, and then also get back to inquiries, like that is really challenging.
Yeah.
So and especially when you're traveling. So I have a lot of respect for photographers and just like the the schedule that you're trying to maintain where you're trying to be present for your clients, but then also like, delivering on the events that have already happened.
Yeah, which is definitely takes the most time. You spend a ton of time on the front side,
Right.
anticipating everything that could possibly happen.
Yeah. And then there's always there's this post event piece that has to happen that you kind of sometimes people I don't think underestimate how much time that's going to take and the event is over, we've kind of had the big moment, and now we're kind of on this like crash a little bit, where there is this like little bit of postpartum, I feel like, that happens after an event. And it's reconciliation and some of the not so glamorous parts of an event, but it's still very important and has to happen. So you do have to allow time for that as well before you're ramping up to the next one, to make sure that you're kind of tying up that with a bow. And often the clients have questions afterwards, things that maybe they hadn't addressed ahead of time that they want to follow up on, or things that came up at the event that we need to see through. So there is that side of it too. But yeah, I want to, and also I'm similar to you. So the way I've chosen to run my business is like I'm fully present in our projects. So when you work with us, you have me in a creative director role throughout the entire project, and you're not it's not like you come on board and then you're transitioned to another project lead. So it's important to me to constantly have that FaceTime with our clients, and that to be present for them and show up for them, so they know that really that I'm constantly like on top of everything that's on their event, and also like directing that in their vision. So I do have to be present, and so in order to do that, like again, it becomes a capacity issue, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly what my brain was
Hmm.
looking for, that word. Capacity.
Yeah. And also like where you feel fresh and you feel like you have ideas and that you're energized, and there's a lot of things that go into that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You're not rinse and repeating the same thing
Yes,
you just
exactly.
did because it's what's in your mind from the last one.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
everything we do is fully custom. So again, to like just be creating at that level, you know, there's a ecosystem to that you have to honor, and so that's kind of what I'm always trying to figure out.
amazing. What advice do you have for couples who are planning their weddings and want the celebration to truly reflect themselves as a couple? Because it sounds like you planned your wedding very much in this way, where you
Hmm.
wanted it to reflect yourself or you two as a couple.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for couples planning their weddings who want the same?
I think it is so difficult to define a vision and then articulate a vision. And that's why we run into this world that we live in, where there's so much influence and inspiration, and coming from Pinterest and Instagram, and like, because I think it's difficult for couples to be able to know what they want and then also define. Those are two steps in the process. So for me, it's about going through the exercise of really defining what that is, and then using that as the true north at which everything else is measured against. And so I love to try to facilitate conversations with our couples. And I think a great tip is it's okay not to know, right? And it's okay to come to the table and say, hey, we need some help. And what I like to do is this kind of facilitate this process of let's think about events that you've been to that you loved, and what was it that you loved about that event, whether it was an event or a wedding. It could be either one. And then let's talk about some events, or moments at events that you didn't love, and why was that. And I think as a professional, we're able to kind of read between the lines and translate and start to see what patterns are presenting themselves, and help them navigate and guide them on what that vision is. But having that dialogue with your partner, I think, is so essential to that process, and also getting really clear on what's important to you as a couple, because those might be two different things too, and what's meaningful to you, or something that is an absolute must have, or an absolute no. So I do think that is just what will really set you up for success. So we love being a part of that process and helping couples with figuring that out. And then I kind of equate it to like a hairstylist. Okay, you go to a hairstylist and you usually have example photos of what you want, right? Like, I love this style, I love this look. And then it's the hairstylist's job to help explain to you, okay, this is what I'm seeing here that you're liking. Here's the realities of what's possible with your hair type and your, style. And then also what's realistic for you and your lifestyle and your resources. So if you think about it like that, it's totally understandable to why people want to bring visuals, because I think it's one of the easiest ways to help define a vision. But it's also common that couples kind of get caught up in not knowing what their vision is, and just, having all of these different influences that, they're getting distracted by that because they're not clear on, you know, the main goal. So as much as you can define that, then you can go back to it. Like I said, even that we did with our wedding, when I felt myself getting pulled in one direction or asking if this felt right, or it helped us kind of have that level set that we could, and we see this with couples too. Like I know you do too. Throughout the planning process, like the vision is changing, or there's new ideas that come on, because often we're planning a year and a half at a time. So like there's a lot of events and a lot of new trends that come up during that time, and so it is quite nuanced to stay on course and on the path with that. And it's okay that the vision evolves, and will suggest new ideas or kind of take things a step further. That's a natural part of the process. But we've got to go back to the why and the intentionality and purpose behind what we're looking to achieve.
I could not agree more. Yeah, I love that. You're brilliant. I'm so glad you joined me today on The Wedding Dish. Cassie, where can people find you online?
Well, please connect with me, continue the conversation with our party loving community, Cassie LaMere Events on Instagram and our website, LinkedIn. We're dipping our toe in the water of TikTok and Pinterest and a few other places. So you might see us pop up there. Again, got to nail one thing before we move to the next. And also, Party Slate is a great place to connect with us and other professionals.
Best of luck on the TikTok journey. It is something that I should put on my list for the wedding dish, but I just haven't. So,
I know. I hear you. Yeah.
it's just, there's so many things.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. Yes, I know. But we're, again, this is the journey, right? Is like we're just trying to figure it all out, and trying to be in the right places, and also, again, kind of figure out what works for us. So
Yeah.
it's a journey.
Amazing. Let me know how it goes. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to follow you and watch your content. And of course, we'll link out to you on the show notes and on our Instagram and all of the places and the description. So it's easy peasy for you all to find Cassie. And while you are looking Cassie up, you can follow us on Instagram at The Wedding Dish Podcast. And you can visit our website where you'll get some behind the scenes, maybe some pictures from Cassie's wedding, I'm hoping. I'm going to request that. And in our show notes, you can apply to be a guest, all kinds of good stuff at theweddingdishpodcast.com. And don't forget to give us a follow, rate, and review on your favorite podcasting platform. And tune in next week for more good times. Thanks, Cassie. This was great.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
Thank you. See you all soon. Bye, everybody.